10:10 local time. A 2.5-meter carbon-composite Luty UAV screams across the gray winter threshold of the Sea of Azov at a steady 108 knots. It maintains a 50-meter ceiling to exploit the Earth's curvature, slipping beneath the Russian radar horizon. Its flight path is locked on the eastern apron of Yeysk Airbase. The target, a $35 million IL-38N maritime patrol aircraft. The mission is a surgical lobotomy, aimed at shredding the NV-9 electronic brain before the sub-hunter can ever leave the tarmac. For 76 minutes, the Luty is operated within a vacuum of detection. By maintaining a rigid 50-meter ceiling, the UAV utilizes the Earth's curvature as a kinetic shield, effectively burying its radar cross-section (RCS) beneath the S-400's electronic horizon. However, as the Luty crosses the threshold from the Sea of Azov to the Russian mainland, the nature of the visibility shifts. The Russian defense architecture, aware of the radar blind spots at low altitudes, has deployed a secondary non-electromagnetic tripwire, a dense grid of repurposed telecommunication microphones known as the bat ears. Inside the regional command and control C2 node, the digital silence is broken. A fast Fourier transform (FFT) algorithm begins a high-speed mathematical dissection of the morning's acoustic spectrum. In a processing window of exactly 1.3 seconds, the system isolates the specific 400 Hz whine of the Luty's piston engine from the ambient chaotic noise. Within seconds, the Luty's coordinates are locked with a 50-meter margin of error. The tactical invisibility has expired. The predator has become the tracked. Exactly 120 seconds after the acoustic bat ears network triggered the initial alert, the Luty's estimated coordinates are packetized and uploaded to the Strovskaya air defense sector. Positioned as the primary gatekeeper of the approach corridor is the Tor M2 NATO SA-15 Gauntlet. This system is the pinnacle of short-range air defense (SHORAD), a tracked digital fortress carrying 8 vertical launch missiles and a high-frequency engagement radar capable of processing 48 targets simultaneously. On paper, the Luty's survival probability is negligible. At a distance of 18 kilometers, the Russian battery commander initiates the engagement sequence, slewing the fire control radar to the predicted intercept vector. However, as the system attempts to transition from search to track, the crew encounters a phenomenon known as the betrayal of physics. The Tor M2's radar is theoretically sensitive enough to track a medium-sized bird at 25 kilometers, yet the operator's primary display remains a void of gray noise. The Luty carries no active electronic warfare suite. Its primary defense is purely structural geometry. By maintaining a flight profile of just 30 meters above the frozen terrain, the UAV creates an elevation angle of a mere 0.1 degrees relative to the Tor M2's sensor. This angle is functionally indistinguishable from the horizon. Instead of reflecting off the carbon fiber skin of the drone, the radar pulses strike the frozen topsoil and the dense, leafless winter tree line. This creates a massive wall of ground clutter, a chaotic backscatter of reflected energy that effectively masks the UAV's minuscule radar cross-section. The gauntlet is not being jammed by electronics, it is being blinded by the Earth itself. Inside the command module, the atmosphere reaches a state of operational saturation. The acoustic network continues to feed dark telemetry into the map: 16 kilometers, 15 kilometers, 14 kilometers. The commander calculates the filtering requirements. For the Tor M2's processors to isolate the Luty signal from the environmental noise, the target must enter a high-resolution radius of approximately 1.2 kilometers. At its overland speed of 200 kilometers per hour, the Luty would traverse this kill window in exactly 24 seconds. The operator's hand hovers over the launch trigger, waiting for a signal-to-noise ratio that the laws of trigonometry refuse to provide. The pressure is exacerbated by the Luty's navigational logic. The drone does not fly a direct path into the battery's teeth. Instead, it executes a broad diagonal bypass, drifting toward the northeast. At 10:45 local time, the telemetry shows the target sliding past the Tor M2's flank at its closest point of approach, 4 kilometers. It is a tactical stalemate. At this range, the drone is close enough for the ground crew to hear the physical hum of its piston engine echoing through the terrain, yet it remains mathematically invisible to the tracking radar. As the red icon on the secondary acoustic display drifts out of the firing arc, the commander is left with a functional silence. The multi-million-dollar system, designed to intercept supersonic cruise missiles, remains paralyzed. The 1.2 kilometers window was never breached. By utilizing basic geometric offsets and terrain masking, The Luty has bypassed the sector's most lethal guardian without a single electronic countermeasure. The first gambit of the geometric war concludes with a total Russian mission failure. When the ground-based air defense network is paralyzed by geometric blind spots, the Russian Air Force Command shifts to a high-risk, ad hoc solution, an unmanned-on-unmanned hunt. Lacking high-speed interceptors capable of loitering at such low altitudes, they deploy a Frankenstein modification, a Duran, to a Shahed series derivative, hastily retrofitted with a 9K-333 Verba man-portable air defense system, MANPADS. This is a patchwork abomination, essentially a parasitic integration of a sophisticated missile tube onto a low-cost lawnmower airframe. It is aerodynamically crude and visually disjointed, yet it possesses a singular lethal utility: mobile, multispectral detection. The Russian operator faces a daunting kinematic constraint. The Luty is maintaining a steady transit speed of 200 km per hour, while the Duran, too, burdened by the 12 kilograms parasitic load of the Verba system, struggles to exceed 185 km per hour. Physics dictates that a tail chase is a tactical impossibility. Demonstrating professional intuition, the operator abandons traditional pursuit. Utilizing the projected vector provided by the acoustic bat ears network, he maneuvers the Duran 2 into a diagonal intercept path. He is not chasing the Luty. He is calculating a killing intersection, positioning the slower hunter at a predetermined waypoint to meet the faster prey. The hunt is conducted through the Duran 2's thermal optic, scanning the frozen agricultural landscape for a heat delta. At 11:07, the Luty is forced to deviate from its 30-meter floor, climbing to 80 meters to clear a prominent geological ridge. This 3-second exposure is a fatal thermal event. In the negative 15 degrees Celsius winter atmosphere, the white-hot exhaust of the Luty's turbine radiates with the intensity of a beacon. The Russian operator seizes the window, initiating the electronic trigger. The Verba's 3-channel seeker, ultraviolet, infrared, and near-infrared, instantly discriminates the drone from the environmental background. By utilizing the UV spectrum, the missile neutralizes the risk of ground clutter interference. Launch. The Verba clears the rail with a 20G acceleration. It employs proportional navigation. It does not follow the Luty. It computes a lead pursuit trajectory to intercept the target at a future convergence point. At a distance of 7 kilometers, the time to impact is measured in seconds. The Luty carries no flares and has no sensory awareness of the supersonic projectile closing on its rear quadrant. However, at the exact moment the Verba's seeker prepares to transition to terminal guidance, the Luty's Skynode AI executes a pre-programmed command. It is not an evasive maneuver, but a mechanical adherence to the next waypoint. A sharp, nose-down dive into a deep creek bed to re-establish acoustic masking. The Luty's sudden plunge forces the Verba to execute a high-G downward correction. As the missile screams over the creek at an altitude of 18 meters, its optical proximity fuse, designed to detect the silhouette of an aircraft, encounters a massive false positive. Directly beneath the flight path sits an abandoned, rusted Soviet-era tractor. The optical sensor triggers on the metallic glint and thermal contrast. Boom! The 1.5 kilograms high-explosive warhead detonates prematurely, pulverizing the tractor and the surrounding frozen earth. The Luty is buffeted by the shockwave, its airframe shuddering under the overpressure, but it maintains its flight parameters. It does not look back. It continues its ingress, vanishing into the terrain. In the control van, the Russian officer stares at a screen obscured by rising debris and smoke. The target icon remains active, moving steadily toward the base. He slams his hand against the console, his voice breaking through the comms link in a frantic alert. Missile miss. The target has bypassed the perimeter. All Yeysk base units transition to point defense. Engage immediately. The atmosphere at Yeysk Airbase erupts into a state of high alert panic as sirens tear through the morning air. On the tarmac, the Russian ground crews are seen frantically stripping engine covers from the IL-38N, the Grey Orca. The mission is a brutal race against the clock. If the Ukrainian Luty had arrived just 20 minutes later, this primary sub-hunter would have already escaped into the clouds. The chaos of the Russian response is underscored by a logistical variable. A ground power unit GPU truck, used to start the aircraft's systems, sits abandoned in the middle of the runway. Its 4-meter exhaust stack creates a physical hurdle that did not exist in the Ukrainian satellite intelligence gathered only 18 hours prior. As the Luty breaches the final defensive ring, it flies into a storm of Russian kinetic resistance. Light anti-aircraft cannons and small arms fire crisscross the sky in a desperate attempt to swat the intruder down. But while the Russian gunners rely on human reflex, the Ukrainian drone operates with the unwavering coldness of silicon. Its optical sensors slice the battlefield into 30 discrete frames per second, filtering through the tracer fire to solve a final, critical puzzle. Among a row of nearly identical airframes, the Ukrainian AI must isolate the specific N variant, carrying the priceless intelligence suite. The neural network ignores the wings and engines, instead nailing its focus onto the distinctive box-shaped hump atop the cockpit, the NV9 Novella electronic brain. The algorithm calculates the shadow ratios and dimensions, locking the target with a surgical 97% confidence interval. With only 14 seconds remaining until impact, the Russian GPU truck looms directly in the flight path. For the Luty, this is not a crisis, but a mathematical correction. The drone's flight surfaces twitch, executing a precise 3-degree bank to weave through the narrow gap created by the obstacle, moving with the fluidity of a Formula One racer. At exactly 6.1 meters above the aircraft's spine, the Ukrainian warhead initiates an airburst sequence. This is not a typical explosion. It is a calculated lobotomy. A directional-shaped charge fires 2,000 hardened steel fragments vertically downward at a hypervelocity of 1,800 meters per second. In a window of just 3.3 milliseconds, this rain of steel shreds the Russian aircraft's duralumin skin as if it were parchment. The fragments are calibrated to pulverize the NV9 radar housing and the NV4 mission computer hidden within. As the kinetic storm severs the fuel lines of the Russian engine number 2, a localized inferno erupts. The IL-38N remains physically on the tarmac, but its brain has been surgically removed. The smoke over the eastern apron of Yeysk eventually dissipates, leaving behind a target that looks deceptively intact. To the casual observer, the IL-38N remains a formidable titan of the skies, its 4 engines still mounted, its fuselage still standing. But beneath the duralumin skin, the tactical calculus has shifted. The Russian Black Sea Fleet has not just suffered a mechanical failure, they have been robbed of their most vital sensory organ. In this new era, victory isn't always marked by a spectacular mushroom cloud or a mangled heap of scrap metal. Sometimes, the most devastating blow is the quietest one, the precision subtraction of a single mission-critical component. The Predator hasn't been killed, it has simply been rendered irrelevant. It is the ultimate everyday irony of modern warfare. It's like owning a top-of-the-line 8K television with a smashed screen. The hardware is expensive, the brand is prestigious, and it still takes up a massive amount of space in the room. But it's no longer a window to the world. It's just an oversized, $35 million paperweight sitting in the dark. If you want to continue following the strategic strikes of Operation Epic Fury, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next update. Goodbye.